We meet Alex, whose class is taking a field trip to Paris on Flight 180. He is asked to swap seats shortly before takeoff and a latch breaks on the tray table in front of him. Upon takeoff, the plane experiences a mechanical failure, resulting in the plane exploding mid-air before Alex flashes back to when he was asked to swap seats, confirming his suspicions of the impending explosion when the tray table latch breaks. After causing a scene, Alex and some of his disgruntled classmates are removed from the plane. His classmates are upset before realizing that the plane truly wasn't going to arrive at its... Tensions rise between the remaining friends during the memorial service for their lost classmates, with everyone suspicious of Alex's newfound gift. After an ominous speech about no one expecting death to come for them that very day, a dirty magazine spells out Todd, whose toilet water leaves him hanging. Todd's parents blame Alex, claiming Todd unalived himself due to the guilt he was experiencing from losing his friends. Alex and his new friend, Clear Rivers, decide they need to see Todd one more time, so they sneak into the funeral home where they meet the mortician William Bloodworth, who confirms there is no escape from death, which now has a new design for all of them. Alex and Clear start to realise there are signs all around them pointing to death's design. Some other would-be victims, Carter and Terry, arrive to confront Alex, but Terry is first confronted with a bus windshield. After viewing an air crash report, Alex determines the order the students were to die in, the order they are currently dying, with their teacher Mrs. Luton next in line. Alex goes to Mrs. Luton's house to warn her and is picked up by agents for questioning regarding the recent pattern of suspicious deaths. The deadly liquid leak returns to explode Mrs. Luton's computer monitor and chases her with fire to the kitchen to turn her into a human knife block. But when Alex arrives to help her, a chair falls on the knife handle to finish the job. But just for good measure, her house explodes. The remaining friends Clear, Billy and Carter find Alex and take him to hide out in Clear's cabin in the woods, but Carter tries to prove he's above death by doing death-defying stunts all the way there, resulting in him testing fate in front of a train. But Alex intervenes, saving Carter from being next in line, and they lose their heads with excitement. But then Billy actually loses his head. In the cabin, Alex thinks he is next in line and overly cautious of imminent death, but he then remembers he ended up moving seats on Flight 180. So Clear Rivers is next, and Alex is in the river, now being actively pursued by the authorities, and finds Clear being actively pursued by malfunctioning home electronics. And to finally cheat death again, Alex pulls the live cable off of her car to allow her enough time to escape before the car explodes, and Miss Rivers is, well, in the clear. 6 months later in Paris, Alex still can't figure out why death skipped him. Maybe that was death's intention all along. Now it skipped Alex again, so... One year later and we meet Kimberly, who is heading to spring break in Daytona Beach, Florida with friends. Whilst waiting to enter the highway, a homeless woman approaches their vehicle and a school bus drives past chanting, "Pile up." Tensions rise on the road and Highway to Hell starts playing on the radio before a log truck loses its cargo, resulting in the decapitation of a highway patrol officer, endless carnage, and truck explosions, with all of Kimberly and her friends dying in the process. Not quite the heat wave they were expecting from their spring break. Kimberly flashes back to the homeless woman knocking on their window and the chanting school bus. She tries to convince everyone there's going to be a crash, stopping traffic with her car, but not all traffic. Back at the police station, Kimberly is interrogated by the police because of the similarities to Flight 180 occurring 1 year earlier. We also learn that Clear Rivers is still alive and being held in a padded cell in a psychiatric ward. We now follow Kimberly's friend Evan, who just won the lottery but is less fortunate when his hand is stuck in the garbage disposal. His microwave and stove catch on fire and all his windows are locked, and he survives all of it, and then is killed by spaghetti. Kimberly starts to become aware that death is looming and decides to visit Clear, who checked herself into the ward after Alex was killed in Paris, scared of death coming to finish the job. Clear explains death's rules to Kimberly. Those that die in the premonition will now die in the same order, but Kimberly mentions that so far they are dying in reverse order, a real pain to figure out, but her other friend Tim is experiencing another kind of pain, of glass. Clear shows up to save the day and introduces Kimberly and her new helper Officer Burke to William Bloodworth, who confirms death can only be defeated by life. A pregnant woman named Isabella, who would have been part of the crash, may be the missing link to disrupt Death's plan by interrupting it with new life. Officer Burke sends fellow Marshal Steve Adams to take the woman into custody while he assembles the remaining survivors in his apartment building, which begins to turn on them. Tim's mother Nora, having been the only surviving member of her family, decides to accept her fate, come what may, and that may be elevator doors to the head. Isabella has now gone into labour, and the remaining survivors discover their lives have been indirectly saved before, by none other than people that have gotten off Flight 180, so Death is working backwards to tie off loose ends. Isabella's van, now on the way to the hospital, accidentally runs the survivors off of the road. A news van nearly hits a young boy trying to help those in the car who are injured, but still alive. Never mind. Kimberly, Clear, and Burke head to the hospital where Kimberly thinks a nurse will euthanize Isabella, and their friend Eugene is recovering from the crash. The baby is born and Eugene is saved from imminent death before Kimberly realizes Isabella was never supposed to die in the crash, and sees another premonition of someone dying in a van in the water, but not before Eugene and Clear. Kimberly realizes she has to die to stop Death's plan, driving the van into the water to drown herself, and is brought back to life by the nurse she thought was going to euthanize Isabella. Later, Kimberly and Burke are having lunch with a family whose son had the near miss with a news van after the accident, but their lunch isn't the only thing that's cooked. High school student Wendy visits the carnival with friends and is getting spooked by details she is noticing in the pictures she's taking for the school yearbook, and is warned by the familiar voice of William Bloodworth in the form of a statue of the devil promoting the Devil's Flight roller coaster, on which Wendy witnesses a camcorder of Frankie, one of the students, fall on the tracks, causing the eroded tracks and restraints to fail, killing everyone on board. Wendy flashes back to getting on the coaster and convinces some to exit the ride also, and of course, the thrill ride turns kill ride, ending the lives of her boyfriend Jason and her best friend Carrie. Weeks later, Carrie's boyfriend Kevin warns Wendy about Flight 180, and gives her the recap of events from previous movies that I just gave you. In the tanning salon, the beds blow a fuse, and students Ashley and Ashlyn are made extra crispy, just like the burgers Frankie is ordering in the drive-thru before. Now convinced of Death coming after them, Wendy and Kevin determine the yearbook photos from the night of the carnival are clues to how each student will be killed. The knowledge of this weighs heavily on their minds, but not as heavy as it does for their surviving friend Lewis. Wendy visits those next on the list, Ian and Erin, and although Wendy succeeds in saving Ian, he remains skeptical until the truth is nailed into Erin. Wendy realizes that the next two survivors are her sister Julie and her best friend Perry, who Wendy and Kevin rush to the town fair to save. Kevin saves Julie from a harrowing death, but a flagpole kills Perry. Wendy saves Kevin, Ian threatens Wendy, and Death crushes Ian. 5 months later, and Wendy is on a train, coincidentally with Julie and Kevin, and the voice of Death can be heard announcing the final destination. But not really, because there's a 5th movie after this, and then another one being Bloodlines, but anyway. At the raceway, we meet Nick and his girlfriend Laurie with their friends Hunt, Janet, and a mother that puts tampons in her children's ears. Nick gets a bad feeling, and you guessed it, things start to go wrong. Cars fly off the tracks towards the spectators, and the stadium falls apart around them, crushing or impaling the masses. After flashing back, Nick scares his friends into leaving along with some other spectators. Racist tow truck driver Carter, mother Samantha, security guard George, mechanic Andy, and his girlfriend Nadia, who suddenly feels a bit tired. Later, the tow truck driver Carter drives to the security guard's house to burn a cross on his lawn as he stopped him from saving his wife's life that day at the raceway. But he's stopped again as his truck hooks him, lights him on fire, drags him down the road, and explodes. To the tampon earplug mother now, and her sons are throwing rocks at signs, and after surviving the most dangerous decrepit salon you've ever seen, she should keep an eye out. The friend group is clued in of the previous victims of the premonitions and how death's rules work, Andy the mechanic being next, and whilst warning him, never mind. Next up is Hunt and Janet. After Nick is warned of a water death by a Clear Rivers sign, Janet is saved from a car wash gone dirty, but they don't get to him in time and Hunt becomes the hunted. George the security guard tries to unalive himself all day with multiple methods to no avail, and they think saving Janet stopped the deaths from continuing. Nick and George discover another spectator, Jonathan, who died in the premonition after Nick asked for him to move seats. Jonathan is recovering in hospital after the raceway, but yet another racist character's bath floods the floor above him. At least they're at a hospital and there's already an ambulance that can help. Well, Nick gets another premonition of the mall exploding, killing Janet and Laurie, dying by an escalator. He rushes to the mall to interrupt the Rube Goldberg machine of death, extinguishing the fires that complete the chain reaction. 2 weeks later, Nick is now an unbearable passerby lecturing construction workers on safety. Laurie and Janet meet him at a cafe and they're all hit by a truck. Alright, let's try and speedrun this last one. Office worker Sam heads to a business retreat, sees a log truck before a premonition of the bridge collapsing, killing all his co-workers except his ex-girlfriend Molly. He convinces his colleagues to get out before the bridge, of course, collapses. The FBI doesn't believe Sam had a premonition, and our heroes mourn their lost colleagues under the watchful gaze of William Bloodworth before co-worker Candace flips out. Whilst creep Isaac is acupunctured, Sam and Molly get back together and figure out that death can't be cheated, and they must kill someone who didn't die in the bridge collapse to claim their remaining lifespan. Co-worker Olivia goes to get her eyes fixed, but the only thing coming into focus is that car's front windshield, and their friend Nathan is next, who accidentally kills his co-worker Roy, extending his life. Boss Dennis goes to investigate, but just puts a spanner in the works. Friend Peter tries to kill Molly to extend his life, but shoots the investigating FBI agent instead. Then Sam stabs Peter, who is now the new recipient of the agent's lifespan. 2 weeks later, a rekindled Sam and Molly get on a plane to Paris, where they witness a disagreement between students. Students we have seen before on Flight 180. Meanwhile, at accidental death co-worker Roy's memorial, Nathan learns that Roy had a serious brain aneurysm and would have died soon anyway. And although Nathan may not have an aneurysm in his brain, he now has a jet engine.